Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with Genna Rosenberg, Changemaker in the toy industry and foodie. Welcome, Genna. So happy to have you here.
Thanks, Deborah. So happy to be here with you.
I love the whole toy food connection. And I also feel like I have to mention we met like 20 years ago. I've moved to LA. I was doing a lot of freelance writing. And then we ran into each other earlier this year through our friend Katie Chin. So I just love how the world goes full circle. But we were introduced at the party, and I'm like, I know you, I know you. And then someone said toy, and I'm like, okay, it's Genna. I know Genna.
I know. And I was so excited to see you again because, 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, you were one of the first writers that I worked with when I was a publicist working in the toy industry. And I was, I think that really jives with my philosophy of like, everyone, keep your connections close because it's such a small world and it's so much fun when you get to reconnect with old friends.
Absolutely. And you're doing amazing things, but you love food. So, of course, here you are in Taste Buds. So, what came first, the love of the food, the toys? How does that all jive together?
Well, I think cooking and eating, frankly, is really my happy place. I just love food. And I always have as a young kid. I used to be in the kitchen with my mom and my dad. It's funny, my mother says she cooked for, to provide food for us, but my father used to love to cook and to really create lots of different masterpieces in the kitchen. And I really follow suit with that. I love to explore. I love to, really create new recipes and like bring fabulous dishes to the table for myself even, but especially if I can share it with other people.
In what way do you think your Jewishness and food-ishness, how do they go hand in hand?
Well, I mean, definitely my father, my parents grew up in the Bronx in very Jewish households. Both of their parents were more conservative Orthodox houses. And so, of course, the food we ate as a kid were many incredible Jewish dishes from latkes to, pot roast and brown rice, we called it, to matzo ball soup. I mean, these certainly we ate them on the holidays, but we ate them all the time, just as regular dishes that we would eat bagels and lox and cream cheese every weekend. And one of our favorites, matzo Brei. So definitely like now my palate and the recipes that I make have expanded significantly, but it's still the most delicious comfort food. And some of my very favorite things to cook are, Jewish meals. I have the Jewish holidays at my house every year and kugel, so many yummy things.
Why toys? Why not evolve into a land of food?
It's really funny that you ask that question because I'm in a little bit of a pivot with my life right now in my career after 30 years of working in the toy industry. And I am really thinking very strongly about like how I can incorporate food into my next chapter. But honestly, when I was a young kid, I think my family felt like it would be really hard to own a restaurant, that you wouldn't really have a lot of autonomy in your life. But I mean, my earliest jobs always involved food. I was a waitress at a catering hall, at weddings on the weekends when I was in high school. I was the manager of a coffee shop in college at University of Maryland. Actually, funnily enough, it was the first coffee shop. There wasn't even a Starbucks there. It was 30 years ago. And and then I worked at California Pizza Kitchen. I was like, I'm going to move to Los Angeles and I'm going to work at the California Pizza Kitchen. And so I always loved like hospitality and being around food. But then I fell into the toy industry. Like so many other people, I was working as a publicist. And I'm actually in the very Jewish part of Los Angeles, right by Pico Robertson, when I met you at Sharp PR and Marketing. So that was kind of fun. There were all these kosher restaurants around and lots of like yummy food places to eat. But we started to get toy companies to do their publicity, toy companies and licensing companies, and just really fell into the toy industry, which is actually a $42 billion industry. with huge roots in Southern California. There's hundreds of toy companies that are based here, and it became my vocation. So once you start representing multiple different companies within a certain industry, you really learn the ins and outs. And, I really developed a love and an expertise for the toy industry.
And now you're also a change maker. So what does that mean?
Well, I have always had my heart in social impact. I've always looked at life through a lens of how can we help others? How can we notice inequities and when people need help? And then when I fell into the toy industry, actually, well, I studied journalism and women's studies at the University of Maryland. And actually, the women's studies department is celebrating its 50th anniversary. I was part of the first graduating class with a major. And I'm going in 2 weeks to be part of the celebration. And I'm going to speak there about my journey, actually. So I got this foundation in college around, seeing life through what's potential, what's possible if you lean in with intention to just see things that other people don't see and how we can really be the change. And I thought I was going to go into nonprofit work. I worked at the National Organization for Women in college, and then I thought, that I would do that. And I fell into the toy industry. But once I fell into the toy industry, I learned a different side of philanthropy, which is corporate social responsibility. And it really kind of lit me up. I was like, here we have an opportunity where there's huge, big and small companies, but maybe they make a thing or they're in a position to hire or be more inclusive in their advertising or break down stereotypes, or they have extra inventory and they can give it to people and companies, organizations who really need it and can get it into the hands of the people who need it most. So I latched onto that, and I really paved a way for myself to get the companies to give me more things to give away to help people in need, and to really evolve their product line to be more inclusive and their workforces to be more inclusive. And I love it so much that that's really what I want to spend my time, doing now.
Awesome. But it started with toys. So what is it about? Because you play with toys and you play with food. I feel like there's a very obvious connection. What do you think?
I definitely think so. I mean, you know, when I was a little kid, some of my earliest toys were a clay tea set or a pretend kitchen or, plastic food. And so I think that we're really like inspiring kids with, playing with food and having fun with food, even when you're cooking, like if you're making food with like an easy bake oven or in real life, if you're baking a cake or making cupcakes, you're kind of playing, right? And so there's so many opportunities to play with food and then to be playful with food. So I think there's definitely a connection. And then throughout my career, I've had a lot of really fun connections with food-based toys. So, like I got to help launch, everyone loves Girl Scout cookies, right? And I represented the Girl Scout cookie oven and helped the Girl Scouts launch this with one of my toy company partners, where kind of like an easy bake oven, but based on Girl Scout cookies, where kids could make all their own Girl Scout cookies. Um, Lots of there was there's a famous cake baker, Duff Goldman. I don't know if you know him from the Food Network. He has a lot of shows, and he came out with a Duff Goldman cake bakery that helped kids make little fondant cakes. And yeah, there's like so much fun, so many fun toys that are based on food.
I have interviewed Duff, and thank you for the reminder that I need to get him on Taste Buds.
I would have a fun little thing with him. Also, I've had the incredible opportunity through my PR business and my public relations career where I have spent my career getting in addition to, doing the philanthropic side and social impact, kind of my main gig, I guess, over the last 30 years was really doing PR for the toys. So we would get the toys in the news, really, when I met you. So I've worked with so many amazing classic brands like Cabbage Patch Kids and Care Bears and Ghostbusters and Pac-Man, so many. But sometimes what we would do is we would conceptualize, come up with like ways to celebrate milestones. So one fun thing was when the Cabbage Patch Kids were turning, I think it was maybe 35 years old. We had a big birthday party for them at the Toys R Us in Times Square, and we had Duff Goldman come in and make a huge giant Cabbage Patch Kids cake that looked like a big Cabbage Patch Kid and had a big birthday party. And he was wonderful to work with.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'm sure the cake was delicious.
It was definitely the
It's just not only about looking good, it's gotta taste good too, right? 'Cause it is cake.
Of course, that's right. And actually, I will say that the Duff Goldman Cake Bakery and even the Girl Scout Cookie Oven, they tasted good. I mean, you're totally right. Even though it's a toy, if it's edible, it's gotta taste delicious.
I feel like there must be like a subset of food toys in the food industry. I mean, way beyond this. You know, I've seen like comfort fries as a stuffed animal and whatever, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because if you think about compounds like Play-Doh, there are, different mold or other doughs or compounds. They might come with different molds so that kids can make their pretend cake or French fries or hamburgers. Um, my company, in addition, now we also do inventing. So we have a lot of patents. We have 6 different patents on squishy toys and like um, sensory tactile toys. So we create a lot of toys with our licensing partners based on memory foam and plush. So this is one where it's like you can squeeze it and it's called Squeezimals, but this looks like a piece of cake. I thought that was kind of fun. So there's a lot of collectibles that are in the world right now. And some of them are in what's called blind packaging, where you don't know which one you're going to get. So it adds as the prize element. But there's so much, one of the things about the toy industry that's really interesting is a lot of successful toys are based on trends. And so if you think about where people are getting information today, it's a lot on TikTok and on YouTube, and they're sharing it on social media. And one of the big trends and then it kind of trickles down into the toy industry. So one trend is creating little miniature foods. I don't know if you've seen that, and it really started out of Asia. And so now we're seeing that in toys also, where you can make little tiny mini food that are real food that you can eat. They might be gummies or they might be other materials.
I have seen those, and it's absolutely fascinating. But to spend all the time and effort into something that is a piece of art that you will then eat.
That's right. Well, when we were younger, I mean, even I used to love making like pot holders, right? Like weaving looms. I'm actually friends with one of the women who created that, Betty Wilkinson, who created the hook rug that I used to use a lot when I was a little kid, and also making these woven loom pot holders. And those are for cooking too, right? Right. Family used to use those to take hot pans out of the oven. I love to puzzle. So I'm a Genius of Play ambassador, I think I mentioned. And basically the idea is that whether you're a 1-year-old or a 100-year-old, you can really have a lot of benefits from playing with toys. I mean, they keep your mind, if you're an older person, they really keep your mind sharp. And, um, you know, people at every age can learn along the way or just get lost in creativity. So one of the things that I love to do, even now, I play games with my kids. Um, and I love to puzzle. And I found a really fun Jewish puzzle I thought that I would share with you. And it's actually the 100 most Jewish foods puzzle. So I know some people are listening on the podcast and some people are watching it, but it's basically this really fun puzzle with pictures of 100 foods. And I was laughing to myself at how many of them I've eaten. But, of course, like challah and Passover plate and kugel and so many fun things.
That's awesome. And puzzles are meditative, and also cooking is meditative. That's the reason I love it is you cannot be connected to a screen and be cooking, which is a great excuse not to be obsessed with what's going on elsewhere, right?
That's right. And I really love to encourage creativity with cooking. I mean, I know so many people, they want to follow a recipe. One of the things that I do is I might look at a recipe or I might look at 3 or 4 or 5 different recipes for the same thing, and then I make it up my own way because there's not really one way to do things. And one of the things that we love to make in our house is matzo brei. So, we have so many really fun, creative ways that we do that. I have kind of a funny story that I used to make matzo brei. I learned how to make matzo brei from my dad and my grandma, and they used to make it by taking the matzah and soaking it in hot water and then wringing out the matzah and the water from the matzah and then adding in an egg. Well, when I met my husband, his family loves matzo brei too. I thought our family loved matzo brei, but they love it even more than we do. And so we had a little competition because they made it totally differently. They skipped the water entirely, and they used to break up the matzo and just soak it in the egg, and I didn't believe at first that they should be skipping that step, but I have to tell you, they were right. Have you made matzo brei, Deb?
I have, and I grew up the way you grew up with. You soak it in water, crumble it, and then you mix in the eggs and whatever fun things that you're going to put in with it. It would never occur to me to make matzo brei without soaking it in water.
I know. So, but the thing is, it really is so much better. So now I don't soak it in water anymore. I just, put the matzah in a bowl, beat up an egg, and right into the matzah, and it soaks in, and it's much more flavorful and delicious.
Interesting. Well, I'm obsessed with my air fryers, so now I kind of feel like I need to make it in the air fryer.
Oh, I bet that would be really good.
Every now and then I make like fake kugel. So I will
Why is that green?
well, because I will explain. I take egg noodles and then I beat an egg and then I'll put in raisins or, whatever else you normally put in with it. And I just make it in the air fryer. So it is like basically it's eggs, noodles, and then like cinnamon or raisins or whatever else. And easy. I like easy.
You put cottage cheese or any cheese in it?
No cheese, but sour cream.
Mhm.
Because we like to put
We're
sour cream
people with put cream cheese in it. But when I grew up, we used to eat like noodles and cottage cheese. We used to call it noodles and cottage cheese, and it was the egg noodle cooked with and then you put a little bit of butter. This was like a Jewish recipe too that my grandma used to eat and my mother used to eat, and then put a scoop of cold cottage cheese in with it, and it would be good.
Growing up, my neighbor 2 doors down, they made that all the time.
Mhm.
And you get the eggs and the creaminess.
Yes, it was delicious. No, my friend loves to make matzo brei, and he makes it almost like 2 or 3 times a week, and he'll have it for breakfast, and then he'll bring it for lunch. So we have a big debate in our house if it should be scrambled or pancake style, or if it should be made with butter, or my mother-in-law makes it deep fried. So we're always having a debate over what's the best way to make it. We try to
Do
make it a
you
little healthier and, not do deep fried. He loves to add mozzarella cheese to it. So a little handful of mozzarella cheese adds a nice kick. And we do savory mozzarella. I don't know how about you. Some people do sweet.
Oh, I am definitely a sweet matzo rye person. Deep fried matzo rye, that sounds a little bit, excessive.
It is quite excessive. It's delicious though, but it's a treat. And growing up, my grandmother used to make matzo latkes. I feel like when we were it really all the same stuff, right? But just a little bit of a different form factor. But when we would go for Rosh Hashanah or just all the time, I feel like there was like chicken soup cooking, but she would make matzo latkes also. And we would always have that.
And so you're talking about matzo brie, sweet versus savory. It's almost like an omelet that you could put just about anything in. But do we really eat sweet omelets? No, those are blintzes. And blintzes can also be sweet or savory. So identity
Yeah.
crisis much?
I love lenses. I love lenses. We've even done, it's funny when you brought up about having a restaurant my husband and I have thought about and our whole family, like maybe someday we can have a matzo brie restaurant because there was really so many things you can put in it. My father-in-law used to love putting salami and onions in it. Sometimes we, might put onions and cilantro in it and call it Brei. Growing like living here in Southern California, sometimes we might have tacos one night and then have a little leftover of that and put that in there. So there's really so many different ways that you could do it. We like to say we like it well soaked and then well done. So even if it's not deep fried, I just put usually a very little bit of olive oil in the pan or sometimes butter, but usually a little olive oil in the pan, and just medium to high heat so that it gets kind of crispy, with a little salt and pepper. Mm.
I like the idea of even if it's a matzo brie pop-up, I think you
Mhm.
totally should do that.
Yes, my
Love
bride. Mine lots of bride, and like you can get it your way with lots of different ways. You can even, I like one time we made waffles. I had a little waffle party, like where we had a waffle maker and we always grew up eating waffles sweet, but I had cream cheese and lox and scallions and I know my mother was like, who would eat it that way? But a lot of people ate it that way and they really loved it. So if you think of it as basically a card and uh, a canvas. You can really get creative and like how we've actually had matzo brie a lot of times. If we have house guests, that's kind of our thing. We'll make um on a Sunday morning, or if we have people over, we'll make a huge amount of matzo brie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Send me your address.
Come over for breakfast. You're all invited.
Excellent. I love this so much. And if you go to jewishjournal.com/podcast, you can read the article that goes with this episode, which, by the way, love the deep dive into matzo brie, and also get the recipe for Genna's matzo brie that you can make your own. And I think that that's the thing about playing with your food. It is taking something you love, experimenting, and making it your own. Sort of like when you find a toy that you love that you really invested in, it's your BFF toy, right?
That's right.
Okay. Any final food for thought on playing with your food?
I think just see what's in your refrigerator, have fun, add fresh vegetables, and try to like come up with healthy options. Sometimes we add egg beaters, sometimes we'll add different veggies that are in our drawer, like zucchini. I think sometimes we'll switch up the flavors and use like onion or egg matzo, or sometimes we, buy big giant boxes of the plain Passover matzo and use it all year. And add flavoring the other way. I've even added some garlic powder to it. Just have fun with it.
So whether you're playing with toys or playing with food, have fun. I think that is the secret to joy, happiness, and a good life, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, this has been a delight. Where can people learn more about you and all the things that you do, Genna?
I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to look me up on LinkedIn, I also have a website, GennComm. My company's called GennComm, GennComm.com. And that shows you a little bit about what we do there and my incredible team and our passion for being the change and helping the planet.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your love of toys and food and matzo brie and foods. Thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. You can subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and or your favorite podcast platform. And if you go to jewishjournal.com/podcast, you can get the recipes and read the articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Until next time, play with your food, play with your toys, and bon appetit.